District Board meeting. I'm calling this to order. Will you please stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Director Cuthworth,
Here.
Director Buss, here. Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Roscoe, here.
And I don't see that we have any special presentations today, but I do have 2 speaker cards. So Tyler Lindbergh.
There we go. Is that on now? Okay. Good evening. My name is Tyler Lindbergh. I have been working with the Coalition to Save Conejo Creek Equestrian Park. I was here back on May 7th, and I'm here again to voice my opposition to the Conejo Creek West concept plans. As I previously shared with you last time I was here, as well as in a written letter, I believe it was a mistake to release the concept plans as drafted, and then in doing so, CRPD sowed distrust among the key stakeholders and created a division between 2 vocal groups, the pickleball and equestrian communities, that would, in the absence of this concept plan, never have crossed paths. While participants in both activities deserve a place to enjoy these activities, pickleball and horses are not compatible and do not belong in the same park. I would, however, like to acknowledge several positive developments that have occurred recently. Just prior to the May 7th meeting, Director Orozco met with several of the coalition leaders to discuss our concerns. On May 16th, Director Buss came out to the ETI Gymkhana, spoke with some of the leaders. And on May 19th, Director Nichols met with us. I appreciate the efforts made by these directors to meet with us and allow us to share our concerns and discuss the plan in detail. The coalition also recently shared with the board the preliminary results of the petition in support of the equestrian park with over 1,100 signatures. While much angst could have been avoided if this type of outreach was done before the concept plans were released, I appreciate that now CRPD is making efforts to involve key stakeholders, especially those who currently use the park on a daily basis. I would also like to thank those of you, including Directors Huffer, Orozco, and Nichols, as well as Mr. Mooney, who responded to my written letter to assure me that nothing had been decided and that the district is still gathering information and feedback. This message has been consistently shared at the community meetings and in emails to other concerned individuals. But even as CRPD insists that nothing has been decided, the leaders of the Ventura County Pickleball Club have assured their members that there will be pickleball at the Conejo Creek West Park. Specifically, at the May 1st meeting of the Pickleball Club directors, the club president shared what was presented by CRPD at the 2 community meetings during the last week of April about the Conejo West master plan. And quoting from the minutes is basically CRPD's goal of including pickleball is in the master plan. Additionally, at the April 3rd meeting of the Pickleball Club, that same president shared that he attended the CRPD board meeting in February and that the CRPD board was more amenable to including pickleball interests. Quoting again, therefore, it was added to the 2026 master plan and approved for inclusion in the Conejo Creek West area. I understand that board members and staff do not usually comment during this portion of the meeting, but I would appreciate clarification as to 1, whether CRPD has a stated goal of including pickleball at Conejo Creek West, 2, whether pickleball was added to the 2026 master plan, and 3, whether pickleball was approved for inclusion in the Conejo Creek West area. If the answer to any of those is a yes, CRPD owes its constituents an explanation, both as to why we have been told otherwise and how those decisions were made in light of the significant opposition to the concept plans. Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we also are going to hear from Mac McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to make a couple of statements that we have big soccer fields over there, along with baseball fields. They don't share their fields with anybody. Equestrians are also athletes. and they shouldn't have to share their field with anybody else. It's been said that the equestrian park is not updated or enhanced. It is. It's updated and enhanced for equestrians. We can't use concrete pathways around the outside because a lot of people train their horses. It's a 2-mile track. It needs to remain that way for people to be able to exercise and train their horses on those walkways. That's about it for tonight. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Do I have anyone who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have anyone online? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Director Huffer.
I move approval of the agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent calendar, A and B. Do I have someone to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we have some deferred matters, and I'm going to open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2026-27 proposed operating and capital budget. Meeting is opened. Do we have any comments from the public? Mrs. Smith, do we have any comments from you?
Nope, this is all stuff you've seen before. There's no changes since the last version, and it's the last public hearing before final adoption at the next meeting. So that's all I have, but I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions? Director Nichols?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, could you just explain the difference between the general fund budget and the total revenue or total expenses, as to why those numbers differ?
You're talking about the district-wide.
Yes, for example, the district-wide budget is like $42 million. Our general fund is $36 million. If you could just explain what that difference is.
Yes, so there's multiple funds that we budget for. So the general fund is separate from the different assessment districts that we have. So the Rancho Conejo, Dos Vientos, and our district-wide assessment, also our capital and equipment. So the total district-wide is all those funds added up together on top of the general fund amount.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
And then I just wanted to also clarify, in your report, you state the revenue or the budget is $36,224,019. And then in your budget spreadsheet, it's $36,524,019. I was wondering what the $300,000 difference is from.
I'm trying to see where you're at. What
Oh.
was it?
I thought you had all this memorized.
I wish.
Again, just under the narrative, under the general fund paragraph, the first sentence, you have the 36,224,000.
Yes.
And then on page 38, on the all district revenue page down at the very bottom, revenue by fund, general fund proposed budget is $36,524,000.
I'm with you. So the difference is it's largely due to the transfers in between funds. So that's why. So if we've got the general fund funding something, it'll come up differently. It's why the total district numbers are going to be a little off because of the transfers in between funds. So sometimes general fund contributes to the other districts, to the assessments for capital projects and things like that. So that's why the expense and revenue totals kind of shift around between. So the all district totals is kind of a difficult calculation, and I can break it all down for you in the next version, but it would get really wonky.
Okay, so if that's the case, then this chart that I'm looking at where it says revenue by fund, general fund, that's not the budget amount we're approving. Where is the budget amount that we approved that's actually $36,224,000?
So you'll see that on page 41 where it's the actual general fund budget summary. And that's the total revenue, 36.224.
Okay, I did have that one circled.
Good.
Yes. Okay, I just did not know where that $300,000 was identified that made the difference from one to the other.
Yeah, it would be, let me make sure. So I would have to get you the total breakdown, but it would probably be because we were having transfers into that fund that for a capital project that was going out. So if the general fund is used as a pass through, it's going through
Okay,
that.
all right, very good. And then one more question. On page 96, which is just before the appendices in your report, you have a spreadsheet, so reserve funds balances.
Yes.
And then one of the top line items is employee housing revolving fund. Could you describe what that is?
Sure. So our employees who live in agency housing contribute rent, and we set that rent aside for improvements that are necessary on those housing facilities. And so it's just a portion of our unassigned fund balance that we set aside for that purpose.
Okay, so anything collected doesn't go into the general fund per se, it just sits in its own pocket
Yep.
until it's going to be used for improvements on those facilities.
Yep.
Okay, hence the name revolving fund.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I'm going to close this public hearing. And I'm going to now open the public hearing to consider the adoption of the resolution number 060426-A. So, and is that Mr. Mooney?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. So on May 7th, we brought all three assessment intent to levies to the board. The board approved the resolution to proceed. That same engineer's report, there's no changes on that on the engineer's report for all three. I'm kind of doing a 3-for-1 right now. No changes on all three of the engineer's reports. We posted, due to requirements, we posted in the newspaper regarding the assessment changes of the increase. So specifically for the Rancho Conejo assessment, there would be an increase from 120 from last year, 120.33 to 125.97. And so with that, I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Director Mooney? Okay. So this is a recommendation. Am I supposed to say, Madam, did I forget my Madam Clerk again? Okay, so before I make this motion to adopt this resolution, do you want to say what we're talking about, please, for the record?
Yes, I will. Resolution number 060426-A, a resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 26-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District Landscape Maintenance District number 92-1, Rancho Conejo Playfield.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a recommendation? Director Huffer?
I would like to move that we adopt resolution number 060426-A to be read in title only, all future readings to be waived.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, will you please read that resolution for us?
Resolution number 060426-A, a resolution approving engineer's report, confirming diagram and assessment, and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District Landscape Maintenance District number 92-1, Rancho Conejo Playfield.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. I'm now going to close the public hearing for the adoption of resolution number 060426-A. And I'm going to open the public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 060426-B. Mr. Mooney.
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. So similar to the last assessment, again, posted in the newspaper, the board looked at the intent and approved that resolution. No changes to this engineer's report from the May 7th board meeting. The rate from last year was $341.23. The increase would be to $345.89. And this would be for the Dos Vientos area parks. So with
Okay.
that, I'm available for questions.
And before we go to questions, Madam Clerk, can you please read the subject?
Resolution number 060426-B, a resolution approving engineer's report confirming diagram and assessment and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District Landscape Maintenance District number 94-1 Dos Vientos Ranch.
Do we have any questions for Director Mooney? No? Okay. Do we have a recommendation to adopt this resolution? Okay, Director Huffer?
Sure, I'm getting so good at this. I move that we adopt resolution number 060426-B to be read in title only, all future readings to be waived.
I will second.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, can you please read this?
Yes. Resolution number 060426-B, a resolution approving engineer's report confirming diagram and assessment and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District Landscape Maintenance District number 94-1 Dos Vientos Ranch.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, this passes. I'm going to now close the public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 060426B. And I will be opening the public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 06204226C. I think that I'm reading your part, aren't I, Madam Clerk? So Madam Clerk, just to be on top of this, will you please read the subject?
Yes, resolution number 060426-C, a resolution approving engineer's report confirming diagram and assessment and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District, Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Mooney.
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. So similar to the past two assessments, no changes from the May 7th. This is for district-wide. The rate last year was $45.36. The proposed rate is an increase to $46.72. And I am available for questions.
Do we have any questions for Director Mooney? No? Okay, so would somebody like to make a recommendation to adopt this resolution? Okay,
I'll make a recommendation that the board adopt resolution number 060426-C, that it be read in title only, and that all future readings be waived.
do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please read?
Yes, resolution number 060426-C, a resolution approving engineer's report confirming diagram and assessment and ordering continuation of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the Conejo Recreation and Park District, Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I have an item for discussion. Welcome, Mr. Dorr. I just noticed you were here when I kept looking over here, and I thought, my, that does not look like Rochelle Callis. So we're glad to have you here today. Thank you. Welcome.
We're scheduled at the end, or keep going through the agenda.
I'm just going to do it now. Okay, it looks like we have some more speaker cards. So I'm going to amend the agenda at this point. No?
No, go ahead. All right.
Okay, does anybody have a problem with that? Are we okay? Do we need to vote to amend the agenda for public comments? No. How does that work? I think.
Well, if you want to make it official, I move that we add an additional public comment period before item 9 on our agenda.
Thank you very much, Director Huffer. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we are going to have some more public comments, but I am going to state that this will be our last public comment session until the very end of the meeting. Okay? That all understood?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So our first speaker is going to be, I have another one. Lyndon. Just come on up to the pulpit. Sure. Oh, yes, thank you. And we're going to have the clock on for 3 minutes, so I will remind you if you go over.
Thank you. So my name is Lyndon Zdenek, and I've been riding for about 8 years now. And within these 8 years, I have been introduced to this equestrian park for about 4 years now. And with this park, I have been brought multiple opportunities. And I was introduced to my trainer, Sharon Henry, at the Day of the Horse. And with that, it was an entire community of people that had come together to understand what it is to be with the horse. And with my horse that I currently ride now, he has changed my life for the better. I did come from a very dark period, and being a junior in high school now, I have lost a lot of my friends. And when I go there, I almost feel like it is what I was meant to do at the end of the day. And it's an entire community of people that come together and stand with each other. And I feel that there is a lot of effects that could happen to this park with what you guys, or what could happen. And I believe that with what we have now, I believe should stay the way it is. Because you never know what could happen with a horse. They can get scared at anything. And I did do some research that there are like a lot of other pickleball courts around the areas, and this is one of the only equestrian parks that is open to Thousand Oaks. You don't really see a whole lot of arenas in this general area that are up to this quality. Like you see up in Westlake, you see it there, but it can be a little pricey. And for the area that we currently have, it's open to people that stand with, they own horse property there. They have their horses stationed in their backyards, and they ride out into our arenas and around the trails, and they stay in that area, and they don't have to trailer out to get their horses out and to practice. And I fear if there is like the pickleball courts and like the other places that are opened up in this area, it could affect us and how we perform on the daily. Because so like I had my notes ready and it didn't even show up. But with what we have now, I am extremely grateful with how horses have changed my life for the better. And with what world we live in today, I know that technology can be very toxic, and there's a lot of students around my age that are all roped into technology, and they just sit at home and they overuse AI, artificial
Can you
intelligence.
finish up your remarks, please?
Yes. And I just believe that being with horses and being in this community, you should take it for granted, and we don't get opportunities like this often. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Kennedy?
Sorry, I can't find my notes app. Good evening. I'm Kennedy Kelman. I'm 14 and I've been riding for 7 years. Horses have the power to change lives in ways that many people do not realize. They provide comfort, companionship, a sense of purpose to those who spend time with them. For people facing stress, anxiety, or difficult situations, horses can offer a peaceful escape and help them feel understood without words. Working with horses teaches patience, responsibility, and perseverance while also building confidence and trust. Shaping the younger generation to become the values that we all wish to embody is just one of the key factors that horses can play on people's lives. My horse Cinco has shown me these lessons firsthand. Whether it's falling off and having the strength to get back on, or just having a rough day at school and having him to console me, he is always there in ways that I may fail to realize sometimes. Through the time I have spent with him, I have learned how important the connection between a horse and a person can be. Horses do not just help people become better riders, they help people become stronger, more resilient versions of themselves. That's why horses can truly save people, giving them hope, healing, and a place where they feel like they belong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Diana?
Hi, my name's Deanna, and I had my first show at that park with my horse. She died last year. Every time I ride there, I just think of her. And I worry that adding noise and activities that are close to the arena could scare the horses and make riding less safe. This place means a lot to me and many other riders. I just ask that you please think about horses and riders and the memories made here before making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon?
You guys are all blurry, but that's okay. So I just kind of wanted to talk about how horses have affected my life over the years. I know you're not going to believe this, but I've had horses for, how old am I? A long time, over 50 years. And I know I don't look that old, but anyway, they have been like a grounding force in my life. They've allowed me to teach and share my passion and what I love with lots of other people. They've allowed me to help other families with their horses when their horses are being challenging. And I don't know, it's just a beautiful connection. I was raised with horses. I got my first horse when I was 9. And I also raised lambs. And just being outside with animals is just like a really super cool healing thing. We also raised cattle too. And this was on like a couple acres in La Habra Heights, if you guys have ever heard of that place. So I got my first horse when I was 9, and when I was 13 and 8th grade, I got really sick. And so I have what's called Crohn's disease or IBS, so if any of you have heard about that, it's not really pleasant. It affects the large intestine. And I'm going to cry because just a baby. The cool part about the horses was that during that time, I'm 13, man. You guys, I'm a teenager. I'm different than everybody else. If you know anybody that has what I have, you know they race from bathroom to bathroom to bathroom, and it's just really a sucky way to grow up. But my horses grounded me. In 1976, you guys probably won't, none of you were probably even born. I showed my horse at the state fair in what's called a showmanship, where you show them a halter. It was a 3-hour class where you're standing there with your horse, and there was 53 riders in the or 53 handlers in the class, and I won. And it was so satisfying to accomplish that, and also the fact that I could be out there that long and not freak out or have a panic attack or whatever. So the drugs that I took kept me alive. The horse, sorry, you guys. The horses, they helped me live and they helped me thrive. It was just, it was important for me to share that with you. And I'm actually fairly healthy now. So wonderful drugs are a good thing. The right drugs, not the wrong drugs. So thank you for this opportunity. And we got to keep this park.
Thank you
keep it
very
safe.
much. Charlie?
Good evening. My name is Charlie Zimmer. Today I wanted to talk about something very personal, how horses saved my life. There was a time where I felt overwhelmed and struggled with thoughts that made it for hard for me to see a future for myself. I felt alone, exhausted, and had a lot of social anxiety. During this difficult period, horses became a source of comfort and purpose. When I was around them, they didn't judge me. They didn't care about my mistakes, my fears, or the bad days I was having. They simply responded to how I treated them and and caring for them gave me a reason to get up each day. Writing gave me something to focus on when my mind felt crowded with negative thoughts. During this period of my life, one of the only reasons I could find to keep going was my horse. He gave me a sense of belonging, and I felt like he relied upon me. Today, I'm grateful. Gosh. Today, I'm grateful for the lessons my horses taught me. They didn't solve all my problems, but they helped me find the strength to keep going and believe that there are better days possible. Because of them, I discovered resilience, purpose, and a reason to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Luciana?
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Luciana, and horses aren't just beautiful animals. They're patient teachers. When I started riding and caring for a horse, I thought it was about grooming and feeding. I quickly learned that a small action mattered. Miss a step and the horse reminds you, with not words but with behaviors. Horses taught me accountability. They respond how I treat them, and if I'm careless or impatient, they sense it. If I'm attentive and constant, they trust me. I realized that responsibility isn't just doing tasks. It's owning your actions. Most importantly, they teach me empathy. Horses can't talk, so I had to learn to absorb, understand, and respond to their needs. Caring for them showed me that responsibility means putting someone else's well-being before yours. Through horses, I've learned that responsibilities is patience, responsibility, and accountability. The passion I've learned, the lessons I carried into school, family, and life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to be moving on to new items. So item 9A. Madam Clerk?
Yes, item 9A, resolution number 060426-D, approving the Conejo Recreation Park District debt management policy and post-issuance compliance procedures.
Okay, will this be Mrs. Smith?
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the board. So tonight, I do want to give a huge props to Brandon Fury we have here from our municipal advisor, and online we have Lolly, who's our bond counsel. So they've been guiding us through this process, and so a huge thanks to them. And they're also going to take any difficult questions you might have. But so in short, this is our debt management policy and our post-compliance procedures. These are basically policies that we have to have in place in order to do the next item where we're accepting the loan terms and the lease back. So the policy ensures that we're compliant with the Public Resources Code and the Government Code. And actually the majority of the policy doesn't even apply to this transaction, but we'll have it in place if we need it in the future. But outside of that, I am available for questions, but more importantly, Brandon and Lolly are available for questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Director Nichols?
Yes, I do have a few questions. First off, since this is a new policy, I presume, right? We don't have a current debt management policy, right?
Correct.
So does that mean that the Park District has never in the past had any debt?
No, not that I'm aware of. You can correct me.
No, we did do bonds in the seventies. So we had issued bonds in the seventies. That's how we acquired a lot of the parks that we have before the growth really started to occur in town. So we had a very visionary board and public that supported issuing bonds to grab the park land before everybody started moving in. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But I guess there was no requirement to have this policy at that point then.
Probably not. But maybe at that time we had one. I don't know. We didn't
Okay.
dig back that far.
Okay. But none of us were here then, so we can't say yes or no. Okay, the other thing I was going to mention is reflecting back on the budget and some of the line items is the improvements to the Hillcrest Center was identified. Then I noticed in our background discussion, we referred to Fireworks Hill. And I've had a number of questions as to why are we buying Fireworks Hill? Doesn't the city already own Fireworks Hill? So I just wanted to point out that it's more than just Fireworks Hill. Could you explain, I'm not sure who can explain, what the reference is when we say Fireworks Hill? What does that include?
So I will say, and Jen can jump in here, we've been using Hillcrest, Fireworks Hill, 401, 403, kind of all meaning the same thing in different documents. So it's not a differentiation between the building parcels or non-building parcels. And Jim, you're free to chime in.
Yeah, I would say Fireworks Hill is the 60 acres of land that the buildings sit on. So the buildings come with the land. So we're getting 60 acres and these two buildings. Actually, there's a little third kind of garage sized building as well, but we're getting 60 acres of land. And we actually, in the formal presentation later, on the next item, we have it all. We'll have more info for you there,
Sure.
but 8 parcels, 60 acres. It comes with the 401, 403, and the little garage back there. So about 55,000 square feet of building space.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be on the public record since this item just refers to Fireworks Hill. And I know a lot of us know that, but I just want to make sure that was cleared up. Okay, now another question I had is in the narrative, despite describing this under the post-issuance compliance procedures section on page 247, in the final paragraph, final sentence refers to monitoring of private business use of bond finance facilities. Could you explain what that's referring to?
Hi, hi, I can take that. I'm Lolly Enriquez from Nossaman. I'm your bond counsel. So because these are tax advantage bonds, the IRS is foregoing interest, and so they want these bond proceeds to be used for governmental purposes. And so they just want to make sure that there's no private entity that is benefiting from these tax advantage bonds. So oftentimes, for example, this is not this type of deal, but an example is like a stadium deal that's financed with bond proceeds. There's a lot of private use there where people are getting a percentage of profits. So that entails a really detailed tax analysis and a high review of the management contracts for those types of deals. But in this instance, as Melissa said, it doesn't really apply because you're spending the bond proceeds or the lease proceeds on the day of closing for the purchase price. So this portion is not really applicable to this financing. But if you were to issue bonds or any sort of other tax exempt debt and for constructing a new office building, then it could potentially apply because you're not spending the proceeds right away and you're building a building. And so we would just want to make sure that it's not going to be leased out to a private entity. And if it was, we would review the contracts to make sure that the exact sort of exemptions are in there.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I didn't think it applied, but I just wanted to get that clarified. So thank you for that. Okay, let's see, I got another one here. Okay, also on page 252, under the general policy and purposes of long-term and short-term debt section, it mentions that we're trying to obtain the highest practical credit rating, and I was wondering if you could share what the outcome of that assessment was as to the credit rating for the district.
And I think that might be a good one for Brandon if,
Well, we're getting everybody involved here.
yeah.
Good evening, Brandon Ford with UFI. For this transaction, we have. Thank you. I'll state again, Brandon Kafori with UFI. For this transaction, we executed a privately placed loan, which does not require a credit rating. So in the future, should the district pursue a publicly offered bond, that would be part of the process that's typically required. I will say that based on the privately placed loan process, RFP process, we did get favorable feedback. One of the banks shared that in their credit model, the district scored a AA1 on the Moody's scale, which was quite favorable for this. So, you know, it wasn't required here, but in the future, that's something that's used for public bonds.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So I'm sure as the opportunity to participate in this process, and I know there was a number of entities that were contacted, they internally have to go through some process to decide if this is a worthwhile endeavor. So if what you're saying, if a credit rating is not part of that, do they have their own internal methodology for assessing as to how they think this is going to work out on their behalf?
Absolutely. Yeah. Each lending institution has its own credit model, much like a lender would evaluate someone applying for a mortgage. You know, there's a credit score. In public institution borrowing lingo, that's a credit rating we typically refer to. And they either use a model that's sort of akin to S&P or Moody's. They're the predominant agencies that rate bonds. But, you know, I think the feedback was across the board very positive based on, you know, the assessed values, the district's strong finances, strong policies. And I think overall the conservative approach to this financing as well, putting in the equity, played out very favorably.
Very good. Okay. Thank you for your help. Thank you. very much.
Absolutely.
That was my final question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Director Nichols. Do we have any others? Director Huffer?
Thank you. Yeah, I had several questions. The debt management policy, and I tried to read through it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a mortgage person, so I'm not sure I understood everything, but this is generic enough that if somewhere down the line we were to look at other debt financing vehicles, this would apply to pretty much any kind of debt financing?
That is absolutely the intent of it, and Brandon can speak more to it, I'm sure, but we'd probably have whatever municipal advisor at that time review it in case we needed any changes, but the intent is to be that broad.
Okay, thank you. And then just there are a few little questions that I'm going through here. The on 247 second paragraph or third paragraph, it talks about the general manager and director of management services doing periodic reviews. Are those periodic reviews reported to the board, or are those more just internal review, staff type reviews?
They're mostly staff type reviews. I know I would need to know more about, because we're kind of guessing into the future, there might be more frequent or less frequent reviews required based on whatever we do in the future. But for this transaction, I think the only one that we're doing, and Lolly, you can correct me, is the annual report to CDAC, which I do every January already. So for MRCA. So it's a common procedure that we're used to.
Okay, thank you. Um, excuse me just a moment, 'cause I made some notes in there. I just want to make sure that, oh, on both the debt management policy and the, can't remember what the other one was called. Anyway, in both of those, the heading, said it's initial adoption. I know there's some things when the city's dealing with things, they vote for something or they adopt something and then they have to wait for the next meeting or a month or something like that for final adoption. Are we having to do something like that to adopt this a second time or?
No, this is just a means of tracking any changes we might have any time. So when we review the policy, which we can do annually along with like the investment and reserves, I'll just put something saying reviewed annually on said date. So it's just a way to track the life of the document and the life of the policy, but there's no second approval required.
Okay. And then several places through the documents here, I hate to assume because you know it means to assume, but would I be correct that this is boilerplate language? In some places it refers to a four-fifths majority of the board. There was another spot in the document where we referred to a 2/3 majority, and then there were one or two places where just talked about a majority of the board. Is that pretty much standard for documents like this?
I believe so. I would defer to these two.
I'll chime in. I think, in some cases, there may be a reference to the general obligation bond authorization. But the policy itself, I can tell you, is sort of a standard approach. If the ratios are, referring to something that differs from what the board's makeup is, we certainly, I don't think that was the intent. But this policy, we work with a number of agencies. And that's, sort of the standard provisions of the policy are line up with that. Lolly, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
Okay. 252, 253, you're talking about general policy and purposes for long-term and short-term debt. In the section talking about short-term debt, said that you had to identify a reliable revenue source in order to secure repayment, but I didn't see anywhere in the discussion of long-term debt that you have to identify a quote reliable revenue source.
I think that, so you do have to identify a revenue source for both types of debt, but for the short-term debt, those are like tax revenue anticipation notes or commercial paper lines of credit. Those are very short terms and you can only issue them in anticipation of, for trans, which is tax and revenue anticipation notes, you can only issue those in anticipation of an upcoming tax payment.
Okay. And then my final question, the second portion was talking about the post-issuance compliance procedures, which of course you always want to be in compliance with everything that you do. But, and maybe it's just I'm misunderstanding the terminology, but it's talking about procedures for tax advantaged bonds. This is not a bond, is it?
No, this is not a bond, but that's sort of, so it's a defined term in the first sentence. Bonds is defined as bonds or other debt obligations, so this would fall under other debt obligations.
Okay. All right. I think that was, let me just double check. I believe those were all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Director Nichols?
Yeah, I just had one follow-up based on something that Director
Okay.
Huffer made. With this being a policy, and I know we do review policies, do we need to have the municipal advisor weigh in on this as far as when we review it every year or whenever to look for any changes? Or is this subject to law changes or just to our internal practices?
I can take that. It's so to give you some background, you had asked about debt policies at the time when the district had issued its debt. This is a relatively new requirement, I think going back to 2016 by CDAC. You basically, when you are filing your annual report with them, you have to certify that you have a policy that meets these criteria. So that could change in the future, or they could add something that would require you to update it. The district's, goals or constraints may change that may warrant a review. So we do see updates from time to time. It's not such that you have to update it every year, or there's no requirement by law that you have to update it at, within certain intervals, but that would be how I'd think about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, Director Bess.
Okay, so basically this debt policy was a requirement per the lender for us to put into place as well as for CDAC, correct?
It's basically a CDAC state statute requirement.
Okay, and then this debt policy is similar to those that you have seen with other districts
Yeah.
or government entities borrowing, and this fulfills it. So this was kind of like a boilerplate one that was used in other ones that then was made to comply with us, correct?
I would say yes. It's pretty standard. There's some deviation. We have some clients and cities that issue pension obligation bonds, and there's a section on that. There's, different subsets, but the general meat of it is intended to meet the CDAC requirements, and I think that's what you see here.
Perfect. So it's very similar to what other people have been doing previous. This isn't something brand new by any means.
Right.
Right. Okay. And then going over there is like the two different basically, so under short-term debt, we have a 4/5 vote of all members, it looks like. And short-term looks like it's up to 10 years. And then after going up, if you're getting long-term debt, then it says 2/3 of the vote. So that just must be standardized for what other districts do. Not sure why they switch from 4/5 to 2/3, but that's pretty standard to have a difference in so if you're going for a 30-year loan for some reason, you need a lesser requirement or lesser majority of.
Yeah, and forgive me, I didn't bring my copy from my bag, but I'm speculating that the 2/3 refers to the GO authorization, and Lolly, I don't know if you have that section in front of you. But if it's, it should, I know there was one reference in there to the GO.
Yeah, it says debt policy must be approved by not less than 2/3 of the board members voting on the matter. And this is under long-term, which is fine. It's just, I can see that's why it was confusing, because it's saying, okay, so if you're getting a loan 10 years and shorter, then you need 4/5. And if you're doing 30 years, you need 2/3 for some reason. But as long as it's standard and other debt policy that has been basically used in other districts, I don't see there's an issue with it. And then like the internal controls post issuance compliance that's kind of been talked about. I'm assuming that has to do with like, I know in my world, I have quarterly reporting I have to do to lender with finances and different things. And I'm sure they have their requirements on a quarterly or annual, which they will be requesting from Mrs. Smith. That's pretty much what this debt policy is saying, that we will keep in compliance with those and supply the documentation.
Yes.
Great. So if you're getting a regular loan or private equity loan, what have you, and then if you're doing the bonds, but we're adopting a bond policy today, but we're not actually getting a bond note. We're not doing that process for the purchase of this, which we're going to go into next. Perfect.
Right.
Okay. So we're just adopting two policies to be in compliance in order to move forward with the financing option that we've spoken about. Perfect. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay, and Director Orozco.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. My questions got answered already. Thank you.
Okay. Then I didn't have you read this ahead of time before, did I? We're just going to move forward. I did. Okay. All right. Do I have a recommendation to adopt this resolution? Okay, Director Huffer.
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution 060426-D, approving 1, the debt management policy for the Conejo Recreation and Park District, and 2, the tax advantage bonds post-issuance compliance procedures.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, finish. Don't do it. You have to do the part. I forgot the part.
Reading to be waived.
Thank you. And you did it so well. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please read that resolution for
Yeah.
us?
Resolution number 060426-D, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District approving the Conejo Recreation and Park District debt management policy and post-issuance compliance procedures.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, now on to step 2. Madam Clerk.
Yes, item 9B, resolution number 060426-E, authorizing site lease and lease agreement with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, MRCA, in connection with the district's purchase of 401-403 West Hillcrest Drive buildings and approximately 60 acres of Fireworks Hill from the city of Thousand Oaks, leaseback financing, and approval of the term sheet from Webster Public Finance Corporation as a lender.
Mr. Friedel.
Yes, thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. We're really excited to be at this point in the journey that we've been on. So this has come to the board several times in the past couple years. This is the final board step in our effort to purchase the 61 acres and 401 and 403. So this is the final board required action. And then after this, it's basically executing paperwork at your direction to ensure that the closing happens and that we hopefully own this, the properties in by the end of the month. So the goal is to close by June 30th. So even though you have heard this before, for purpose of posterity, and if anyone watches the video, I want to do a little bit of the background for you and go through a little staff report. I will be assisted, just as Melissa was, by some experts in the room. So Brandon and Lolly will be called on to kind of fill in if you get questions about the lease back, which is not intuitive by any measure. So if you have questions about that, you're totally normal. And we'll also go through the term sheet for what does it mean to borrow some money. So here we go. That is an image of 401, 403 and Fireworks Hill. So you probably are looking at nearly all 8 parcels there, just the way it captures the land area. So a little piece of all 8 parcels. So there you go. That's what we are purchasing. And I think most people that live here kind of intuitively know what Fireworks Hill is. If you haven't seen the backside, this is actually the backside of Fireworks Hill taken from Conejo Community Park property we also own. So across the backside of Fireworks Hill looking south. And you can see there's a big road that the fire trucks drive up to the top of the hill so that we can do the fireworks on the 4th of July from the top up there. So in kind of back at the beginning of time, in the late 60s, early 70s, the city was just becoming a city, and the Park District was in its early years, and the Jantz Corporation actually donated to the city a portion of the 60 acres. It wasn't all 60 acres, but it was enough for the 2 401, 403 buildings to be constructed. And that donation from the Jantz Corporation to the city came with a 30-year deed restriction that said it had to be used for civic uses, with the intent the whole time was Jantz Corporation was helping this brand new city out, and we want you to have a prominent, visible, important civic structure on a hill there. So when people are looking to buy homes in TO, they know that there's a real local government there to serve them. So that was in 73, the city and Park District moved in. And the Conejo Rec and Park District paid $500,000 towards the $2 million construction price, and did it with a leaseback arrangement between the city did it with a leaseback arrangement between the city of Thousand Oaks and a joint powers authority that was created specifically to help construct the improvements on the hill called the Civic Center Authority. And it was a short-lived JPA to basically get the financing to build the buildings. Interestingly, historical note, we got a 50-year agreement to be part of it and had rent payments and whatnot, but you'll hear in the next story, we both moved out for a good reason. So, uh-oh. Did I do that? There. Oh, so yeah, there's the building in its earliest stages. I remember showing this to you guys a year ago, maybe, but that reminder that the roof of the building used to be a parking lot. It actually has the structural ability to hold from our structural, report that we got from looking at purchasing it during our due diligence period. The structural engineer said this building is not moving down the hill. The footings for the edges of the building go down like 25 feet into the hill, and they didn't detect, any kind of sloughing or moving in the building. So they're like, this thing, like people would call it a bunker on a hill. It is a well-built structure, and offhandedly basically said you could do 2 stories of wood framing on top of these buildings without any additional structural. So these are beefy buildings. So just as a footnote, if you think of long-term, 50, 100 years out, these buildings will be here if we want them to be. So getting into a little more of the background. So really, the city and park district occupied it from 73 to 88. We vacated both the city and the park district. The city had been growing like crazy. The staff wasn't fitting in the building. We weren't fitting, we were pretty closey. And when we moved out, when they started to look at leasing it to somebody else, they discovered that asbestos had been used throughout the buildings. So the buildings then sat vacant for a decade plus. Eventually, the asbestos got remediated. The buildings got completely cleaned out. And in around 2000, the National Park Service moved in. And in 2002, the Conejo Park District moved back in on a 25-year lease, which 25 years after 2002 is 2027. And that's when we have to be out because we are no longer a tenant after that. And we all know that. And that's when we started a conversation with the city about maybe we want to buy this place. So the city, in looking at their efforts to do the downtown master plan, said, hey, CRPD, we kind of want to sell the hill, want to sell the buildings. We need the funds for the downtown master plan. This is an asset that the city doesn't require any longer. You are more than welcome to be down here with us to do some of the things you do up on the hill. And they were extremely gracious in that offer. But looking at it closely and talking to the board, we felt that remaining here on the hill, purchasing it and being basically a forever home for the Conejo Rec and Park District was like a better move. And therefore, we've been trying to buy it. So we began negotiations, and in January, the Park District and board entered into a purchase and sale agreement for the 61 acres, along with this building we're sitting in, 34,000 square feet at 403 Hillcrest, and 21,000 square feet next door at the old National Park Service headquarters building. And another part of our asset, I will say, is that we also held on to what is an existing specific plan for the property. So we agreed with the city they would not alter our ability to do, or some person's ability to do something under specific plan 17, which allows for a lot more development than a park. That was put in place only because if this park district ever got into financial straits, we wanted the ability to sell an asset that had value, right? Consider selling an asset that had value, not that was like zoned open space and we couldn't do anything with it because that, land is worth what you can do with it, essentially. So we agreed with the city that the purchase price would be $30.4 million. So we don't have we don't have $30.4 million lying around to actually acquire it all cash. And brief footnote, I didn't plan to say this, but actually we do. But we have reserves for other purposes and don't want to be basically completely broke. So we actually want to borrow about half the purchase price. So we're using 13.4 million from the Park District's capital reserve funds. And those are funds that we had been saving over time specifically to do capital projects like acquiring land and buildings. We also were successful, and thank you to staff and our friends at the Conservancy, in getting a grant from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. And that grant we expect will cover parcels F and G, and I'm going to get to a map and show you what those mean. And then in order to get the rest of the financing, we're planning on borrowing 15 million plus the 150 or so in closing costs. And that might be a colloquialism or not a term of art, but closing costs, I don't know. So basically 15.15 million. And we are doing this financing because to borrow money for the 20 years that we want to borrow it, we have to do a structure called a lease back. CRPD will be leasing the site to the MRCA, who simultaneously will be leasing it back to CRPD as the counterparty, or the MRCA is our counterparty. So the parcels that are subject to the lease back, this provision that we're talking about, are parcels A and B, and they have the asset value exceeding 18 million. It's 18 and change. But I'll show you also on the next map what parcels A and B look like. So just yesterday, the MRCA met here at this building, as they have for many years, and they approved the lease and their assignment agreement at their meeting. So we have a lease back between CRPD and MRCA. When we lease it to the MRCA, MRCA has to also assign any rights to get money from us to the bank. So that's how the bank gets the money. So the lease payments will equal the money that we have to pay the bank, and MRCA basically doesn't really touch the money. And Brandon and Lolly, you're going to help me better articulate what I just said there.
You did a great job.
And as part of this, we have a term sheet, and the board has seen this. The committee saw it. The committee saw the term sheet. We showed it to the board. The board didn't actually vote on it, but we did mention it to you because it was at the last meeting. We didn't have time to actually make an agenda item, and it works well in this. But basically, the term sheet is in your packet on page 316. And that's the outline of the agreement between us and Webster Public Finance Corporation, or the bank in shorthand. So they are going to be loaning us essentially 15.15 million at a 4.46% fixed interest rate for 20 years, starting on July 1 of 2027. So we actually kind of get a free ride for a bit. And then we're closing on or about June 30th of 2026, so weeks away. So we're getting really excited about all of this. And here is the map that I referred to, where I was going to reference some parcels. So F and G, those two parcels are the top of Fireworks Hill, right? The upper approximately 30 acres, the top half of the hill. And that is already designated parks, golf course, and open space in the city's general plan. And so that is protected already. The SMMC grant is going to have a deed restriction on the grant. When we take the money, the 2 million, we have to have a deed restriction on the property to keep it as parks and open space. So we felt like having that deed restriction land on F and G, which is also basically appraised value of that, is very close to the 2 million. So it kind of works very well. And I'm going to take a very quick sideshow to F. The parcel F is 4.99 acres. It is the slope of the hill. It's below the top of the hill and it's above our parking lot, but it's the very steep slope on the side of the hill. For reasons that are maybe lost forever to history, there is a deed restriction on F that was put in place by an owner named Franklin. And that deed restriction says it can only be used for open space or a bomb shelter or a parking lot. So that's what F can be used for. But it's in perpetuity. And if it's not used for those purposes, it reverts back to the family. So that's like a thing that, warning sign, don't plan on ever doing anything with F unless it's a bomb shelter, parking structure, parking lot, or open space. But otherwise, having reviewed title, the remainder of the parcels don't have anything more than typical utility easements and stuff. So nothing too scary on the rest of the parcel. So title is looking very clean and good. And then when we talk about the lease back, we say, okay, what does that actually mean? So the deal between CRPD and MRCA and the bank's interest in the property is in A and B. A is basically our driveway up the hill, almost all the way to the 401, but it's the driveway up the hill and it's 403. Those have value, appraised value that exceeds $18 million. And since we're only borrowing 15 million, that is going to be the subject of the lease back. I did want to say, and I was going to kick it off. Before I kick it off to them, I did want to mention, I might be stealing maybe a little bit of Brandon's thunder, but he was exceptional. We did want the ability to prepay or pay back some of the debt we're taking on because we anticipate development occurring near the hill, getting developer impact fees for the purpose of acquiring land. That's the point of the Quimby fees and the impact fees associated with development. So when we receive those funds, we would like to pay down this debt if possible. And the bank, Brandon, negotiating on our behalf as our financial advisor, got the bank to agree that we could pay up to 5 million without any kind of penalty or anything. So if we get developer fees in and around this building, we can either pay down the debt and have a shorter term, or we can reduce the annual, whatever makes sense, just like refinancing a home or something like that. We did open escrow. These are kind of footnotey things. We did open escrow. Our escrow officer is Danielle Soto. First American is title. I said title's looking good. We have done due diligence. City did an appraisal. We did an appraisal. We've done a phase 1 environmental, a structural assessment, a solar assessment because we have the solar panels, a termite inspection, a sewer inspection. And we've been basically living in this building for the last 23 years or 24 years. So we're pretty familiar with the warts and all the good stuff about it. There's way more good stuff about it, but there's some warts and we're understanding what those are. By approving the budget earlier tonight, the capital budget in particular, we actually have set aside about $2 million to be prepared to be doing like a bit of a fixer-upper on the building. So if the board approves this tonight and everything closes, we'll have some funds to basically, if you do the analogy of a home, we're going to have a little money to fix up our fixer-upper. And so primarily that's going to be like the HVAC systems are old and need replacement and it's not cheap. There's actually a lot of landscape improvements and some sort of concrete pathway improvements that we want to do. And we've talked about that during budget. So with that, if you have questions, we're all available to answer them. I know if Lolly or Brandon have any specific things they want to say about the lease back, this would be the time. Or we can wait for board questions. And I actually don't have a copy of my own slideshow, so I don't know what's next. Oh, that's for after they talk. It meets goal C. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and kick it over to Brandon. Brandon, you're up. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Jim. That was very informative. I'm going to walk through a very brief presentation. I'll start it off talking about the financing items specifically. So tonight before the board is a request to approve a resolution that approves the documents that are necessary to execute the financing, which we plan to do later this month. I have an overview slide here. I think we've touched on much of this material as Jim alluded to with the funding plan. Again, I would reiterate that I think the approach here is very sound with how the district is approaching, putting in the cash, which reduces the payment to a manageable level within the parameters that we established up front, but also leaves you with a very healthy liquidity position going forward. So I think it definitely strikes the right balance, in terms of the different funding sources. And tonight we're going to walk through more specifically the leaseback component here. I'll explain a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it to Lolly to sort of walk through the documentation that's included in your packet. This is an overview of the good faith estimates. So this is a requirement. Municipal advisor provides estimates for the various metrics for the financing. It's attached to the staff report tonight. We are assuming, based on a $15.15 million loan at a rate of 4.46, which was again in the term sheet provided by Webster, that is locked through our anticipated closing date of June 30th. About a 20-year maturity with a final maturity on July 1 of 2046. As alluded to, the total payments over the life of the loan are about $23.2 million. On average, on a fiscal year basis, this works out to roughly $1.144 million and some change. On the right side, we have just the breakdown of the project fund and the issuance costs. Those are anticipated to be funded out of the lease financing at about 1%. That's about in line with what we see for these types of financings. And I would allude to, a publicly offered bond is generally more expensive to close. So that is another advantage we have here in terms of reduced issuance costs for the private placement financing. So in terms of the leaseback, I'll start this off and then turn it to Lolly. These are a very common structure used not only in California, but across the country by public agencies to finance long-term projects. And a natural question is, well, why? Why is it that we have to do a lease and not just a traditional loan? Essentially, for many agencies, it has to do with the fact that they're subject to a constitutional debt limit, and that requires voter approval for any long-term debt beyond 1 year. So what the courts have stipulated is that when you have a lease or a leaseback structure, those payments are not considered debt, and therefore they're not subject to the constitutional debt limit. So for that reason, we see these used across the board, not only with leasebacks, but lease revenue bonds, certificates of participation, and other basically under the umbrella of appropriations leases. Further, in this case, we are subject to the Park and Recreation District Law. That does allow for borrowings out to 10 years. Beyond that, it requires voter approval. So by doing the leaseback structure, it essentially allows the district to meet its objectives of a long-term financing at 20 years, which allows us to, achieve the payment we wanted and execute this in a way that sort of checks all the boxes. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Lolly now. She can add anything here, and then she'll walk through the specific documents that we need to execute this.
Can you go to the next slide, Brandon? Okay. Yeah, so before you is a resolution approving 2 documents in substantially final form. We have a site lease and a lease agreement that the district will be signing. Under the site lease, the district will lease the property parcels A to MRCA, and then immediately thereafter, or simultaneously, under the lease agreement, MRCA will then sublease the property back to the district. And so under the lease agreement, the district will be making lease payments to MRCA, and those lease payments are structured to equal debt service on the financing. And then I just have the description of the assignment agreement here, although the district is not a party to it. So under the lease, the district is paying MRCA, and under the assignment agreement, MRCA is immediately signing its right to receive the lease payments from the district to the lender, which is Webster Bank. And so in a nutshell, that's basically what those 3 documents do. The district is only a party to 2 documents. And under the lease, you're required to have certain insurance, fire, rental interruption insurance, and that is because if you, the reason why the courts say this is not a debt is because you're making lease payments contingent upon the use and occupancy of the leased property. And so it's subject to abatement. So in the event that you lose, your use and occupancy is limited, then you can technically abate your rent payments. And so the banks know this, so they want you to get rental interruption insurance in the event that that happens. So I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution approving the two documents, the site lease and the lease agreement in substantially final form. And as mentioned earlier, once that occurs, we will continue the next steps for the closing. That's expected to occur on June 30th. Are there any questions?
Do you have anything else, Brandon? So if you guys are done.
No, that's it.
So
Yeah.
Brandon and Lolly, you're done. I don't know if you have anything. I was going to, because I didn't say this during my, I think did the board get this?
Yes.
So the board, you have the map that I had just had on the screen. On the back side of the map, you don't have to walk through it, but it's literally what Lolly and Brandon just covered about what a leaseback is. But this was using sort of the AI for the formatting and whatnot. So it's kind of an easy to read. We were trying to try to make it as understandable as possible. So we have that there for you. If you have additional questions, and of course they're here, but before we go to kind of the board questions, because this is a significant action, I wanted the opportunity, if the board would give me that, to thank specifically the city, because without the city's willingness to work with us over all these years for us to be here, they've been a great landlord, and we'll be sorry to see them go, especially because they were paying for a lot of the work that we will now be paying for. But they've been great to work with on so many different partnerships over the years. So I want to thank the city. I want to very specifically thank Brandon and Michael at UFI and Lolly from Nossaman, because they've been just a pleasure to work with getting through this. I want to thank each of the staff members, because Melissa, of course, is the numbers person. I'm picturing some sort of superhero thing. She's the numbers person. Andrew's the due diligence and title and capital guy. And then Rochelle was really working hard on the programming and uses for 401. And it had been a team effort this whole time. I want to thank the two board committees, the acquisition and the finance and audit committee, that each had different roles about whether this was even a good idea. There was a lot of work that went into just even deciding, the board ultimately deciding whether this was a good idea to pursue. And the committees did a lot of that work. And then finally, of course, to the board that said, let's just buy it. I still remember thinking that, going, wow, okay, let's do that. Let's go for it. So with that, everybody's available for questions.
Yeah, are there any questions? Director Huffer?
Yeah, a couple of general comments, one or two general questions, and then just a couple of specific questions. Early on, Jim, you said this was a non-intuitive method of financing. And I kept trying to read through this stuff, and I was visualing, see, if I wanted to buy my house, I would lease the house to my brother. My brother would lease the house back to me. And then I'd make payments to my brother, but then he would say, you can take them back and you take them to the bank.
Right.
So
Got it. You got it. That's that simple.
Non-intuitive is an understatement from my standpoint. But it did bring up the question, because we've, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've been looking at whether or not there are various financing methods we could use. And all of these methods we were talking about require a 2/3 vote of the public. Why has this never been considered for, say, rebuilding Conejo Community Center?
We could have done that. We could do that. But, debt load is an issue. And this is our shot. We say the memo from January had a lot of the actions and reasons that this was the right time for us. Obviously, first and foremost being we were going to be homeless if we didn't do something, because next year we were not allowed to be in this building. We were going to be out. So we had to go find a new home. So we were kind of encouraged to look for something if we wanted to still have administrative offices and Hillcrest Center for the Arts operating. So we needed to find a home no matter what. That was a one big thing. The district, the board, having adopted a policy over a decade ago to fund our pension liabilities by setting aside reserves and diligently pursuing that for the last like 14 or 15 years. We literally got to the point where our pensions are fully funded by the 115 trust and the reserve funds, freeing up about $1.5 million every year that we were putting toward that savings. So all of a sudden we have a little more cash coming in than we had anticipated, or, we just all of a sudden had this free board. So we can handle the debt service. No doubt, though, the additional cost to operate, which we don't currently have, will be something we have to factor into budgeting in the years ahead. And we're going to be sharpening our pencils and making sure we operate this as we do with other centers. But let's be clear, we lose money when we operate centers. They aren't profit centers, but we are program and service centers. So we try to minimize costs and get decent revenue, but we will be, spending an extra $400,000 to $600,000 to operate the facility that we weren't spending before. And as you know, being on the Finance and Audit Committee, we have had that couple $1 million a year kind of free board, which has allowed us to save the money in the capital reserves, et cetera. So long story, we're now property rich and cash poor for a little while.
Okay. Well, I know Melissa has showed us that, our budget, we can fit the payments into the current budget. Presumably any other type of leaseback, there's no more wiggle room in the budget to.
Oh, I'd like to sleep at night. So, yeah. And, yeah, I'm confident we can handle this. We could probably handle a little bit more, but I would not take on more, especially right away.
Okay. The specific question I had was in the term sheet, and it also was in the discussion, but it was very, very nice of Webster to factor in the one-time $5 million if we happen to come across it. And I was just curious, the way it states here, it says, should the district receive direct or rebated developer fees? Is that the only, if we get, say, some generous person comes by and hands us a check for $5 million, could we use that $5 million to prepay some of this, or does it specifically have to be the developer fees?
I think the intent and the expectation here is that, we'd love for that to happen, but I think the idea was that it would be most likely coming from the developer fee revenues. I don't see a reason why we couldn't ask for flexibility on that, but it is intended that would be the source of funds.
I actually, sorry
yeah.
to interject,
Yeah.
I actually made it broader in the lease, the ability to prepay, and the bank reviewed it and didn't comment on that. So the way I worded it in the lease was the district may exercise a one-time option to prepay on any lease payment date without penalty or premium from any available funds, including but not limited to developer fee revenues or Quimby fee revenues. So I wrote it pretty broadly that you could prepay from any available funds. So.
Good. Well, I thought I vaguely recalled looking through all this stuff, but I was getting so bleary-eyed that I thought maybe I was just imagining it. So thank you. It's very good to hear that there is that flexibility in there in case someone drops a check for $5 million.
Yeah, no, you weren't imagining it. That was the wording in the term sheet. It was limited to the Quimby fees, but I wrote it a little bit broader in the lease. So which is the controlling document, and their bank counsel reviewed it and didn't comment on it. So I assume they were okay with it.
Good, thank you. And then just one. Okay, one quick question and one quick comment. The $2 million from Santa Monica Mountains, presumably that will get to us in time for the closing at the end of June.
It's actually already in escrow.
Ooh, nice. Thank our friends at Santa Monica Mountains.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And then just a point of clarity or accuracy. One of your comments, you said, now that we've approved the budget, well, technically we haven't approved the budget, so that's all.
Any other questions?
I do.
Are you sure? Okay.
My question
Director
really
Bess.
quick.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I was just curious. The leased assets are gonna be parcels A and B. Why not E? Is it because the way that it's currently, like in the state? Is it, because it needs repairs and things of that nature? Or I was just curious why those two parcels?
No, so A and B, are close to a total of 15 million. It's 18 in the appraised value. So it's close to the 15 million, but more strategically is that E, if it isn't encumbered by the lease back, it's not limited to public use as it might otherwise be. So in theory, if the board directed us to just do an RFP and see who wants to move into the next door building, we could do that. Yeah. Or sell it, dispose of it, but again, that's not our intent. It just gives us the flexibility if, bad financial things happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Bess.
So I'm just curious on a couple of things, just because this is so different than what I see. Why are there no payments for a year?
So just the principal payments are annual. Those will be on July 1 of 27 when they start. We do have an interest payment on January 1 of 27. So that's the first interest payment actually. So it's these are semi-annual payments.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Because I'm like, that is so interesting. Okay, so on January starts the first and you pay every 6 months.
Yeah, so January is the interest and July is principal and interest.
Every year continuing?
Yes.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And then just curious, the $150,000 for the issuance costs, what does that include?
So that includes the consultants involved, the title, there's a lender's policy that has to be paid for, the bank counsel, and then there's a fee for CDAC actually to get registered with them. So
Oh,
we have a breakout of that in the cash flows. I provided it to staff and we can certainly provide a copy to you as well.
no, that's fine. I just went on the slide. It was saying, it had the asterisk and I was wondering, I'm like, okay, so that's the estimate of what it will be. It will not be greater than, it will be somewhere below that.
It's pretty locked in at this point. There's a small contingency in that, but
Okay.
that's, yeah, pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
And then when Lolly had said that she wrote it into the lease for the $5 million source to be, will the lender be reiterating that sources in the loan docs themselves, or will it only live in the lease?
It pretty much, the loan docs are the lease is back.
Okay, that's what I was wondering too. I was like, are these the loan docs then?
Yes, yes.
That's so interesting. It's so,
The
sorry.
lease- The lease
So different.
contains, most of the terms from the term sheet are in the lease.
Okay. Yeah, no, I noticed that. So I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Okay. And then I'm just curious on the rental distribution insurance costs. Do we know what that costs, or have we looked into that?
The rental interruption insurance?
Yeah.
I know we've asked Matt. Yeah, right. So
Not sure yet.
they're aware of it. Yeah, they're trying to
Okay.
get us.
I was just curious what that ended up costing. No, I agree. I just want to say too that the interest rate, I don't know. I mean, people probably don't look at interest rates as much as I look at interest rates, but looking at similar loans recently for my work, I can say this interest rate is far below what anyone can get. And I think that like, you know, most of us in our general lives will not be able to get an interest rate this low. So this is like a really amazing 20-year loan to get at 4.46. So really appreciate that because yeah, that's huge. Well, and it just makes the cost so manageable and kept it within our budget, which I'm very excited to see this for the district because this is a huge asset for our community overall. I mean, I live literally a mile away from here, and I can say having the mall sold and the Jan's mall sold and having all of the housing that will be put into those two places to then have this stay open space. I think for what Conejo Valley stands for and what we've really captured here with the open space, it's so nice to have this 60 acres be open space for all of the potential new developments rather than also then too being developed. So I just think that, you know, for our audience, that they should be so appreciative of the work that's being done this evening for our community as a whole. So, you know, maybe that will make it on Facebook comments once. So I just think that I'm really appreciative to the city as well for allowing us to purchase this. I just think for Thousand Oaks, this is a really big deal and for long term. And I'm very grateful on many levels that we are doing this evening. So thank you both so much for explaining everything. And those are my comments.
Oh, that's me. Director Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Got a couple of questions and a few comments as well. This isn't a big question, but I just happened to notice let me get the right page here. On page 275 of our packet, and under the section 5 title of the agreement there is about halfway down up to the right, it says in an amount not less than with a blank spot. I'm just wondering what dollar figure goes in that blank spot and how much is it?
I believe you're referring, so that would be the principal amount of the bonds.
I'm sorry, Lolly, could you repeat that?
That would be the principal amount of the bonds.
The principal amount of the bonds.
So 15.15.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, and then I'm glad you cleared up about the not to exceed for the $5 million. I thought that was a great option for us. I'm looking forward to being able to take advantage of that at some point. And also with the term sheet, I think I understand that. I don't know if I can say that I can repeat what a lease back is, but I think I understand it. So at least for this purposes, that's good. And then being the map interested person that I was, I actually got out a magnifying glass to look at the fine print on the plat map. And I did notice the one reference there to no structures, but a parking lot is okay. So I'm glad you pointed that out as to where that came from. It doesn't have a source there. Well, it might have a source, but didn't explain it. But I thought of all interesting, and I didn't, that little note doesn't refer to a bomb shelter.
It's,
But I don't know, this building may qualify for the
Yeah.
way you just described it. But I also noticed in the parcel 5A, you know, most of those notes were just easements. It refers to an area described by the Joint Powers Authority. I just was wondering if you may or may not know why just that one parcel was referenced if there was a Joint Powers Authority for the whole site. Do you have any idea why that was?
Yeah, I intuited, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that 5 and 5A might have been added to basically what are parcels 2 and 3 now when they were building Hillcrest Center. I think 5 and 5A got added like after the authority had already it got created and focused on those parcels, and those got added after the fact.
Okay,
That's what I,
okay.
based
all
on
right.
dates when we were looking at title and everything.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay, so then and it kind of makes sense because you can see like the turnaround for the back parking lot. Like,
Yes,
that's kind of all that really creeps onto that parcel.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right. I think most of the rest of my comments are just comments, and kind of following up what Director Buss was saying, I'm thrilled that we're taking this step. I just was reflecting back on multiple years ago when we were going through a strategic planning session, and I think 3 of us were on the board at that time. One of the topics came up is we need a permanent home. You know, we're looking to the future. Let's get that on the capital plan. Let's, you know, work that direction, because we knew that the lease was expiring. And as typical with the expiration of a lease, it just kind of sneaks up on you before you know it. So we wanted to get that planning underway. And I know, you know, the general manager and staff was moving that forward, looking at various options around the community and, you know, seeing what we could do, costs and space and all those. So that was underway. We weren't neglecting that. We were looking at that. And then this opportunity came up. And, you know, I've been faced with a lot of questions, not negatively, but just inquiring, why are you doing this? And again, like I said, some people thought, well, you're just buying the hill. Why do you want to buy the hill? So when I explained it to them, it's like, I'm glad you have that forethought. You know, the board is really making some good decisions there. But I also want to just give kudos to staff, because as we were trying to go through this as a board of, you know, do we not, you know, can we do this even if we wanted to, that because of past financial management, we were in a good position to be able to move forward. And if not taking those steps, which has actually been years in the making, I know even before before I was on the board, some of the steps that we're taking for resolving the pension issues and many of those things, put those into place, you know, years later, put us in a good position. I know even recently with some of the investments that Director Smith is kind of pointing us towards, also solidified that position. So thanks to staff, present and perhaps past even, that, you know, put us in a position where we could do this. And if not for that, it just would have been a pipe dream that we could never even imagine doing it. And some people say, well, you know, why go into debt for something like this? I'm thinking it's kind of like our home. You know, we all are paying mortgages on our home. Well, most of us, I presume, paying more. That's one thing that we're willing to go into a lot of debt for, because that's our home. And so that's kind of the way I felt about this too, that this is our home. You know, I'm not sure I would be willing to do this type of arrangement for any other purchase. I just say maybe, I don't know. But for this, it was pretty much a slam dunk. Yeah, this is worth it. This is the type of place, especially with the lease expiring, a willing partner to sell, we're a willing partner to buy. Everything kind of was in alignment. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Then also, I thought some of the consequential, but in a positive way, it saves us the expense of having to move somewhere, you know, and to build out another facility. And it also saves our Hillcrest Center for the Arts, that we can just, you know, without blinking, just keep on operating that facility. And it also provides the future parkland, which I know General Manager has been, you know, kind of touting quite a bit with the anticipated development, as Director Buss was saying. So, you know, and to retain the open space, you know, to retain it as an asset for the community. And it just so happens, why now? Is well, it's because for sale now. Is that, well, that's why we're doing it now, because it's available. It wouldn't have been any other time for that it could have happened. So I mean, just wanted to state that, because we've talked a lot about these things over time, but, you know, unless we kind of broadcast that, it may never be known. So maybe we have to get our marketing team on why we're doing this. And oh, by the way, I look forward to a mortgage burning party in 20 years. So please invite me when that happens. But I
20.
I hope so. Yeah, 15 would be even better. But I also just want to specifically thank our general manager, for really pushing this forward, always on the outlook for what's best for the district and trying to keep the board apprised. And I think that is well-founded for something that he was actually promoting in our conference last week about partnerships and how well he has established partnerships with the city, with MRCA, with SMNC, the Conservancy in particular for this endeavor. But it's throughout the community where we're in a position and support, getting support across the board for doing this. And I believe, Jim, thanks to you for kind of setting that path that you probably weren't aware of at the time as to how crucial that was going to be. And yet here we are faced with it, and everything has been going fairly smoothly, you know, and we haven't had to, you know, go too far to you know, make this happen. It's just it's been kind of falling into place because of that lead work. Like I said before, you maybe didn't even realize what you were doing for this type of an issue. And I know you have said that this is probably one of the most challenging things you've had to do. And I know we were kind of joking at your evaluation last time. They said, hey, let's just put this on your bucket list of things to do this year. And I think it kind of bubbled to the top and maybe been the only thing you'll be able to check off. I don't know, because of the time commitment. But I want to thank you for your effort to pull this together, for getting a team, including, you know, I know with our consultants here, Brandon and Lolly being kind of this critical to kind of bring this all together. But I'm really looking forward to this being, you know, our home as a district. The community gets to enjoy it. And most of the people probably won't even realize what transpired here. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. Not that we want to keep it secret, but they don't realize that there was any interruptions at all. They just kind of kept business as usual. And I think we're in a good position to make this happen. So again, thank you. I appreciate the team that's put this together. I know it's everybody in this room that's made that happen, including our consultants. So thank you all for helping us get to this point.
Well, I think all the questions have been asked and all the statements have been made. There's not much more for me to say, but I just want to reiterate that we could have gone and rented some office space. I see a lot of empty offices around. We would have lost the Hillcrest Center for the Arts. We would have lost the Arts Council. We would have lost Young Artists Ensemble. We would have lost the Art Gallery. This could have all gone to development. But we have gained a lot for our community. And I think it's important to remember, I think that Conejo Rec and Park has always been here for our community, and that we have such a dedicated staff that you all work together, you pull together a good team. And as Director Nichols was saying, the time was right. And it was because there was a lot of foundation there, a lot of good teamwork, not just with our board and future boards, but even with the foresight of past general managers, past boards. Everything that was done laid the foundation for this so that we could do this. And I'm very excited. We've saved a mountain. We've saved 2 historic buildings. And, you know, it's like, where do you get open space in the middle of a city? And now, well, this was about it, and we got it. And so thank you. I can just say thank you very much. And yes, I've had people pretty oblivious to to this, but they will appreciate it. Anybody who's going to be living in any apartments around here, anybody that's going to be coming, and we're going to have a whole new center here, and using that, they are going to appreciate what was done in these last few months. So thank you again. So shall we make a recommendation for this resolution? Who would like to make this historic resolution? Reading. Director Huffer, you've just been amazing tonight.
I know,
Okay.
I know. I want to reiterate what other board members have already said. This is a special occasion, and it does reflect the staff, those who came before us, and it may be too bad that the public isn't totally aware, but it's probably a good thing that you guys have always been here and you'll always be here. So I'm really excited. I know how excited Jim was that when we first started talking about this, and looked like it was definitely going to happen. I told somebody I was like a little kid in the candy store. He was just so thrilled and so happy. But we're all thrilled and we're all happy because this is really great. So with that said, I'm going to move adoption of resolution, and I'm going to read the whole thing.
Oh,
So there.
Do it.
Resolution 060426-E, authorizing site lease and lease agreement with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, MRCA, in connection with the district's purchase of 401, 403 West Hillcrest Drive buildings and approximately 60 acres of Fireworks Hill from the city of Thousand Oaks, leaseback financing, and approval of the term sheet from Webster Public Financing Corporation as the lender.
And this is a resolution. We have the recommendation that it be read.
You
just
God,
read
how
it?
could I forget that? To be read in title only, all future readings to be waived. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Yes. Resolution number 060426-E, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District authorizing the execution and delivery of a site lease and lease agreement with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority and approving the term sheet from Webster Public Finance Corporation in connection with the district's leaseback financing for the acquisition of Fireworks Hill.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we got it. Motion passes. All right, so. So we're going to go to reports and announcements, 10. So do we have any comments or questions?
I was just gonna, let me just say, thank you, Lolly. If you're still online, you don't have to stick around anymore. And Brandon, thank you so
Yeah.
much. You don't have to stick around either. It's okay to leave and
Yeah.
go home and do home things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Does anybody have any comments? Director Huffer?
Just a quick question on the capital improvements fund grant. Did we not get enough applications to use all of the money that we had authorized?
Correct, but if you remember, McCray was taking 150,000 this fiscal year, so we'll use some of the leftover money to help pay that down. So we have about 48,000 or so in change that Melissa will happily take back to pay for that.
Okay, but we do typically advertise this to our various
Yeah.
user groups throughout
Yep.
the community, so they're aware that it's there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment? Any other comments?
No, I was just going to thank the Director of Parks and Planning for providing that little issue. I think we just continue to get that information out to the partner agency or partners of our agency to let them know that we're wanting to do this, but thank you for putting that in there for us.
Yeah, and to add to both of those comments, we are Jody does some awesome graphic stuff, and we get paid. Parks gets like page 3 in the rec guide that goes out 5 times a year. We get it a couple times a year, and so Tim's better at the schedule when it actually goes out in the mail. But for the fall winter schedule, when the grant program opens up for next fiscal year, we'll be putting an announcement in there just to help remind people, hey, nonprofits, come keep using the parks and work with us to improve. So, yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? So I have a question, and maybe you'll be able to answer this for me, Mr. Dorr. So I did notice that there was a field trip at the Botanic Garden. I'm very interested in those. Did the children from Acacia walk over there? Do you happen to know? It's close enough that they could probably walk. I was just wondering if they did.
I do not know that. They're used to walking because they do that for Fun Friday every week for our ELOP program. But I want to say I was over there that day and there was a bus. but I'm not sure if that was the same day as the field trip, but
Okay.
there was a bus going into the Botanic Garden, but I will follow up on you. I think they would have normally walked because it is very close.
All right. No, I'm just interested because I'm interesting also, but I was interested because I'm starting field trips to the Botanic Garden. I think they were just in the regular park. So that helps with bus fees if schools can walk over. So, okay, I'm glad that you're continuing on with those field trips. I guess you wouldn't know offhand how many you're doing a year.
This year, I believe we did two. They just did one recently. I think they did two this year. Last year, I think they did three.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're still doing them. And then the schools are liking them a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a great program. So. All righty. Moving on, it looks like we have our department reports. Director Mooney?
Thank you, Chair Cussworth, members of the board. OCART actually took place last Saturday. Board, I believe, approved that in January earlier this year. So that event was kind of on hiatus a bit. The last time we did an event at the park with that style event was in 2023. Brian and his team and Jeff coordinated great with my staff in the field. Was a good event, well attended. I didn't get any complaints, no phone calls over the weekend or any emails. So which is good, right? That's one thing that we know we got a lot of activity throughout the whole park system, but when you have an event like that, but yeah, all went well and no issues. So kind of standard operating, kind of getting back into that groove. So just making the board aware of that. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Okay, Mr. Dewar?
Thank you, Chair Cussworth, members of the board. Our recreation division is just gearing up for summer. Super busy time for us, but also probably the most fun time. Memorial Day concert went well. We really had great weather, and we had about 4,300 people there for the Garth Brooks tribute. Last night, our TOPS program, if you're not familiar, the Thousand Oaks Police Service Unit, that's a partnership with our TR unit, had their graduation. So we had seven participants this last year. And that's the third year that we've done that. Coming up on June 6th, we are doing the Conejo Creek Street Fair, and that's a partnership program with Tim Hagel and Safe Passage. So that's over in the Conejo Creek condominium area. From 10 to 2, they'll have live performances, food, dunk tank, and Borchard staff will be on site signing up our kids for the summer programs that they do over there. And we also have St. Vincent de Paul that will be there offering financial assistance for some summer programming as well. Huge thank you to Melissa's team. We've processed over 115 employee packets for the summer, and that includes mostly our camp counselors and our lifeguards for our camp counselors for therapeutic and our outdoor unit. So a lot of returners as well, but a lot of newbies, but been very busy, and we just about wrapped up all of our hiring. Our Conejo Center and the outdoor unit that run our camps, they started something new this year, and they're doing a leadership training this whole week for all of our camp directors and our senior camp counselors. And then next week will be the regular camp orientation for all of our camp counselors, where they do all their planning and prep and training. So that's really cool. Our day camps are, we have over 2,100 participants enrolled for the summer. So we're doing really good with that. Summer beach bus will resume and start up on June 15th, and it will run through August 8th. And then we're also doing a Safe Passage Moore Park College field study on Tuesday, June 16th from 9 to 2. We try to do that every year. It didn't work out last year with some scheduling issues, but it should be really cool. They're doing rotations between a biology lab, makerspace session, a health and a kinesiology program, and a yoga class, and then a guided tour of the zoo. And then lastly, just a reminder of Touch a Truck coming up on Sunday, June 20th, Father's Day weekend from 10 to 2. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Director Bus.
What days does the beach bus run for my children so I can ship them off?
It's Monday through Saturday. I have a
Oh, it
flyer.
does run every day?
Yeah, I have the flyer I'll give to you, but
Oh,
it's
I didn't
it's
realize that. I thought, I was thinking it was like only certain days.
yeah, Monday through Thursday it goes to Zuma, and then Friday and Saturday it goes to Ventura.
Oh, I didn't know it went to Ventura. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any others? No, well, I do have a question. Could you tell me the date again for the street fair with Safe Passage?
Yeah, it's this Saturday, June 6th,
June 6th?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the times?
10 to 2.
10 to 2. Yes, my kids enjoyed this beach bus. I mean, they didn't go a lot, but they did go sometimes. It's a good thing. All righty, so management services.
Thank you, Chair and board members. So I'm going to be moving money to escrow. But also, as Director Huffer pointed out, next meeting is our final budget and our MRCA budget. So my world will be all calm after the next meeting. So that's all I have to report. I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Okay, well, I guess we'll go with our general manager.
Thank all of you, everybody involved, and everybody was involved for the agenda item we just did. And I know we did all those thank yous, but we did that on top of all the assessment districts and the final capital and operating budget. And it was just a lot that came together. So staff, thank you guys all for working together and making that happen. And board for your support and interest and caring about the long-term future of the district, because that vote, I think, will matter a lot. People will care about that 20, 50, 100 years from now. So that was cool. Capri, I went to the CARPD conference, but I go a day early because the Capri board meets. And one exciting thing to mention is that MRCA will be in Capri. So both MRCA voted, I guess, to join, and Capri voted to accept them. So I think it's now the fine, the fine details, but it looks like, Capri's going to be adding a really big member for the pool, which is kind of cool. And then I was just going to mention Tim specifically because he's normally not in here, and Rochelle's on a much deserved vacation, but thanks, Tim, for helping out so much. And I think you guys covered everything else I was going to mention. So that's it.
Okay, well, let's start with our director's reports. Director Orozco.
Let's see. I don't have too much to report. I did attend on Tuesday our Youth and Families Coalition meeting. Where we planned our annual summit, which is September 16th. I believe there's a flyer going out. If you guys are interested in attending, it will be a really wonderful opportunity to showcase, or the community comes together, our nonprofit community comes together to showcase what they're doing in the community. And we're really taking the approach of trying to be a conduit and a connector for our nonprofits to meet with one another and help fill in any gaps that they might have, or just to connect with one another for the sake of resources. And then it is June. I just want to say happy Pride Month. May 31st, I did go to Unity Conejo Pride at CLU, and it was really lovely. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Nichols.
Thank you. I have a little catching up to do since I wasn't at the last board meeting. On May 19th, I did meet with the ETI folks regarding Conejo Creek West. And then on May 20th, we had a Association Rec and Park District Board of Directors. Also had a Costco Board of Directors that evening. And then on May 21st, had a meeting with the general manager. May 25th, attended the concert in the park. And then last week, 27th through the 30th, was in Monterey for the Association Rec and Park Conference. Then on June 1st, we had a Conejo Creek West ad hoc meeting. And then June 2nd, had the Ventura County Special Districts Association meeting, which is excellent, as our chair has been doing an outstanding job with that. And then I do have a couple of things here, thanks to our general manager for passing these along and reminding me. First, I did also want to mention, in addition to Capri, that the MRCA was approved by the Association of Rec and Park District Board of Directors to be a member of that, which is a prerequisite to being part of Capri. So we got them roped into that one as well, which is a good thing. And oh, in fact, they asked if we would have attendance from the conference from MRCA, and I said, well, Ms. Smith is kind of wearing multiple hats, so she's been here for multiple years. So yes, you just didn't know it. So she was there as well. And then they do have a nice banquet and award session, and I'm happy to announce that CRPD did walk away with 2 awards. And this first one is called the Environmental Excellence Award regarding the Water Conservation Plan. So I wanted to a little shout out to our Parks and Planning Director and staff for not only implementing that program, but maintaining it and then keeping us updated on that. So I'll give that to our chair. You can take a look at that and pass that along. And then secondly, we also were handed an award for the Outstanding Community Landmark, and that goes to the Conejo Community Park. And I know our staff put together a nice little write-up on that facility. And I know it's one of our older facilities. We've had that for a long time. So hopefully this will hang on the esteemed location in that park and facility and be duly recognized. So I'll pass that over there as well. So it was nice to be recognized for the effort there that our staff is putting together and recognized statewide. And I will say, from being able to participate in the what we call roundtables, where we have board representatives from around the state, and I know the general manager attends the GM roundtable, just get a lot of kudos from people who just, hear about it, especially after the presentation that Jim gave on the partnerships. He kind of gave a little review of our park district. And I had multiple compliments about the presentation, but then also just about, the kind of the standard that CRPD has set, and people can follow it, and that there are a lot of organizations out there that don't have a pathway forward, and they look to those who have set that path. So again, Jim, thanks to you and your staff for doing that and being available, answering questions, because I know there's a lot of questions that come your direction, and I'm sure you pass those off to staff. And just be an example of what it means to be really a preeminent rec and park district. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Director Nichols. And thank you. Well, I'm going to be talking later. I won't talk now. Director Buss.
So really not too much. I did attend my first club soccer. Sorry, my kid left ASO tournament at the Conejo Creek South Fields, and it was beautiful as always. Looks great. Everyone was complimenting it. And then I did attend the Conejo Northwest master planning board meeting or a committee meeting as well with Doug. And other than that, no, I am preparing to be now a flag football mom. I got all the mouth gear, and they start next week, or no, the week after next week. And I can't wait to see these kids get their little booties kicked. Oh, their cardio is so bad. I cannot wait. I told them I'm gonna buy them like some Epsom salt and stuff, because these kids are gonna be sore. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. They're gonna be in great shape though for my soccer team in fall. We start in August. They're gonna have 2 months of training. I mean, just saying, this was really a clutch thing for me to convince both of them to play flag football. There's no cuts at TO High School. So my one daughter is like, she doesn't care. She just doesn't want to do PE. And the other one is like, what are you talking about? We got to be on the field. How many minutes we get on the field? So that's basically my update for you on my children's sporting events at the moment. That's all I have.
Hey, Director Huffer.
Well, even though it was a club tournament, I was impressed by the fact that 2 days before the tournament kicked off, there were still fire trucks and firefighters and all kinds of equipment out there. So they managed to do a pretty good job of clearing it out. And I'm assuming that we had a little encouragement to get them on their way. And yeah. Anyway, a couple of things. I did attend the summer concert. It's always fun to watch the little kids and their parents running around and having a great time. They might not be listening to the music. I have to admit, I wasn't really listening to the music too much either because I'm not a huge Garth Brooks fan, but it's fun being there and fun watching the people. So, the CARPD conference was a wonderful event. I've been to, I don't know, 8 or 9 of them, something like that, and it's probably as good as any of them that I've been to. We did have a wonderful speaker about partnerships and park districts. And it was fun because I left early on Wednesday and enjoyed driving up the Highway 1, which is now finally completely open, which been closed down for years and years. So that was a beautiful drive along there. On the 2nd was at the Ventura County Special Districts Association. And as Director Nichols said, Nellie's doing a great job in all the various programs we've had. We got to spend a lot of time with firefighters at their new station in Newbury Park, and then went over to the headquarters and learned everything we needed to know about the fire department. You knew some of the stuff, but it was a great opportunity, and you can tell, Nellie, just by the number of people that are coming to our meetings that people are enjoying the variety and learning about all these organizations in our community. And then the final item last night, I was amazed at the crowd of people who were here to learn about rattlesnakes. It was fascinating. And they had a lady who runs some wildlife facility, and then I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he's basically a rattlesnake handler. And he goes out, and if somebody sees a rattlesnake in their backyard, he'll come out and grab them with a grabber and put them in a bucket and take them away. But there must have been 40 or 50 people there at least. So it was good presentation. So that's it.
Okay, well, thanks. I was at the concert. I didn't know I was a Garth Brooks fan. But I almost knew every song. So I guess I did. I mean, the 80s went by me. I mean, I had my first child in 1978, my last one in 1992. I mean, the 80s, I was just doing kids, and then 3 in the 80s. So I didn't think I knew them, and I'm going, oh, I know that song. Oh, yeah, I know that song. Yeah. So I guess somehow, so I really did enjoy that concert quite a bit. It's always fun for me to go down, dance with my daughter and my granddaughter, and it's such a great family activity. I'm so glad that we do that for our community. And then, of course, VCSDA went well. I don't think I enjoy it as much as other people. And I think Raquel probably enjoys it even less because, when you're in charge, you're kind of trying, okay, does everybody look like they're doing? Okay, we've got the food here. All right. Okay, no, we got to go. All right, I better do this. You're kind of thinking about keeping the meeting going. So, but it did happen. It did went well. And I think the firefighters had as much fun as we did. They seemed to really, enjoy it. So
Now you know the difference between a fire truck and a fire engine.
And a firefighter and all of these different things. Yeah. I mean, where is your husband at? Where does he,
I'm the worst fire wife ever. I don't know what station he's somewhere.
So he is in Oxnard. So
they're very busy. I would go and I'd be alone in the station nursing. I don't visit. It's pointless.
Well, I thought it was interesting because they got we need to get, well, I guess they don't want to give out my cell phone here I don't know if anybody doesn't have it or if they just don't give out my cell phone. So that might be a possibility. But the firefighter who was in charge, who was working with me, he didn't have my cell phone number. And he said, I have to have somebody to call unless we're out on a call so you don't come. And so they called here. I guess Raquel wasn't here. But anyway, we connected. But just before we were going to go, they were called out on a call for a preschool. And and the preschool filled with smoke. But so anyway, so that was like just before we came. But they got back there before we got there. And then while we were there, one of the firefighters firefighters, when we were in the building, got called out to go on an emergency, and he had to go off, and I thought, well, they have a very unpredictable life there. They were.
Yeah, that's why I don't
Yeah.
come for Thanksgiving there. I don't do any of it.
Because you don't know when they're gonna be there or not.
They literally just leave, and then I'm sitting and like, I mean, in Oxnard, not all the fire stations are very nice either. And so you're just sitting there and I'm like, this is great. Well, yeah, Ventura County has way nicer stations than Oxnard.
Yeah, and the one that we were at is one of their newer ones, so. But it was again with running this, we were supposed to be at another station in Camarillo, and I went there and I go, I don't think this is gonna work. So we had to make changes. Seems like we were always making changes, weren't we, Raquel, all year? Yeah, it was, I've gotten to know Raquel really well. I've highly appreciated her in many levels. She's a very good worker. I thought at the CARPD conference, it was excellent. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Doug, for all of your work on that. And it is true. Jim gave a fabulous presentation on partnerships. And then the next day at the same time in the same room, the GM of Hayward said, yeah, well, I wish I had everything like, Conejo does. So we have a very different situation. And it was very interesting for me to be talking with other rec and park districts and other, places, some, very small, and then Hayward is, like twice our size, and kind of, what they're doing. But it's nice. I mean, everybody's out there for the good of the public and trying to preserve parks and open space. So it's a very, very, positive experience to go to these. And I was going down Jan's Road and I thought, is this the soccer tournament or is this Oak-Cart? Because there was definitely traffic. And Harvey said, well, I said, no, it's not Conejo Valley Days. I don't think it's that. We would see something. So anyway, so it was Oak-Cart. And that's the end of my report. So moving along, do we have any requests or status reports or items for subsequent agendas? Anyone want to know? Do we have any items from the public online? No? There's no executive closed session?
No, but
No?
I might just for your calendars, we don't have anything scheduled for July 2nd, the board meeting. We don't have any anticipated agenda items.
Okay.
We're hoping to close by the 30th, but if some weird reason we had to meet, so I'm saying we're probably going to ask you to cancel it, but we don't necessarily want to definitively cancel it yet. So, we hope to be able to cancel the July 2nd meeting.
Special ceremony for the closing.
We'll do it right, but initially it's just going to be signing a lot of papers and that's it.
That's so entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't know, those loan docs are small then.
Okay, then I will adjourn this meeting.